Okay, so welcome to our webcast, and we're going to look at the AI that's been introduced to EBS, what's new about it, and how does that compare with the AI that's in Fusion. After the introductions, I'm going to set the scene, talk about EBS and Oracle's approach to AI. I'm going to look at Fusion and then discuss some use cases for AI. I'm from InnoApps, and InnoApps are a global Oracle-only systems integrator. We implement, but we also run applications and technology, including around about 100 EBS customers. I'm Deborah Lilly, and I'm an Oracle ACE Director, and I'm responsible for customer success at InnoApps. And my colleague Drew is responsible for the apps technology and our products division. We've been exploring this since Cloud World in Vegas. We held a round table for eBusiness Suite customers, and we invited along Nadia Banadju, who's their VP of Strategy. And the question of AI obviously came up, and she explained with the help of serviettes and coffee cups and how I wish I had videoed it, what their approach was. And it made absolute sense to us. We'd been looking at the technology ourselves, and her approach agreed with what we'd found. Anyway, Oracle delivered on this. They talked about it a bit more over the next few months, and this was delivered at the end of 2024 in December. We wrote a series of blogs talking about what we'd found, what we thought about AI, Drew and myself, and they're available on our website, so you can read a bit more than just this webinar today. So AI is everywhere. You can't avoid it. It was the main topic at Cloud World in Vegas, and for the Cloud World tours that are going on at the moment. I think the next one is our own here in London, which I think is the week after next. So you can't avoid AI. It is everywhere. In fact, I recently changed my job description, and I got ChatGPT to come up with a new job description. And I could, and this is the excitement to me of ChatGPT, I could have edited that output, or I could have just deleted it. But actually it was really, really good. And I think we've all had a go, we've all had a play. And what we're talking about here is how can that AI help us in our Oracle applications? Sorry, I didn't do the last slide. That's not very good, is it? Need AI to help me avoid the mistakes. So first of all, let's just set the scene. The AI that we talk about falls into two areas. There's a number of things that I think, oh, that's not new, but it's now being rebadged as AI. So things like chatbots, things like voice recognition, like document recognition. They've been around for a while. They help us do things more quickly than we do as humans. RPA falls into this area, but that's what you would call classic AI. What we're concentrating here today is on that generative AI, the ChatGPT experience that I explained that I'd used with my job description. But I'm sure all of us have tried the ChatGPT type experience. And so that takes data that already exists and it provides us with something new. It might be a summary of lots and lots of different pieces of information. It might be, it might generate us code based on what's happened. It gives us more information based on information that we've had before, but it's generating something new. So I went back to ChatGPT and I said, explain the difference to me from the traditional AI and that generative AI. And again, I got a pretty good answer. In traditional AI, it said, let's have a look at pattern analysis. Let's give me a picture of a tree and I'll tell you what kind of tree that is, right? I'm a scuba diver. I would love to have that underwater. Hey, that fish that's just swum past, what is it? Right? That is our traditional AI. In generative AI, you could take those same pictures of trees and flowers, and you could generate a new picture. Right? And in fact, just today on the news, you've got people like Paul McCartney who they're protesting over the fact that their music, which is copyrighted, is being used to train these new generative AI models, and they're not getting any income from that training. So, this how it's being used is developing all the time, and that comes with it, concerns and people want to know about it. But in general, it's being used for good. So I created this document which helped me to talk about the difference between traditional and generative, and it was pretty good. I didn't have to edit it very much. I could have just deleted it. So what's Oracle's strategy around generative AI in Oracle? Oracle talk about their stack, and in their stack they've got the hardware, so the platform that we can use for anything in AI, whether we're using it or building it. And then they've got this area above the data where we've got some platform tools, and we've got some services that we can use that allow us to use this AI that's being made available to us. And in the top level of this stack, they have embedded AI into their applications. But you will notice that that's just their modern applications like Fusion, like Analytics, like NetSuite, or things like industry applications like health. But we'll come back to that later when we're comparing eBusiness Suite to Fusion. I spend a lot of time road mapping with customers, organizations. What is it that they need to do next? What are the sort of things that they could consider? I don't have any preconceived ideas. I always say that as long as you can articulate why, your answer is right. My first question is, does your current system work well? And when I'm talking to eBusiness Suite customers, their answer is often yes. But it's the eBusiness Suite that they've built rather than the eBusiness Suite that they bought. They have customized the system to do what they need it to do. And they've done that over a long period of time. There are very few eBusiness Suite customers who haven't been running eBusiness Suite for at least 10, 15, and many 20 years or more. So it's the eBusiness Suite that they've built and customized that does everything that they need to do today. And so when Oracle have brought out other new innovation, like their enterprise command centers, which I think are really, really good and give you, great access to all of the data that's there in the ways that we want to consume things today, fewer people than Oracle would have liked have taken up that innovation. And when I talk to people about, have you looked at ECC? Do you like it? Would it add value to you? Their answer is normally, I like it, but I needed it 10 years ago. Right? We've built out the problem that it was solving over time, or we've invested in a third-party tool that's given us the data that we needed. So yes, they like what Oracle are doing, but it hasn't been something that they've wanted because they've solved that problem a different way. But today, things are different. There's real excitement in the EBS world around this AI that's been promised and actually delivered. So this generative AI is part of OIC, as I said, and we're looking at the Select AI solution. And that allows you to use natural language to ask a question of your data. So in this example, which comes from Oracle's presentation on AI and EBS, it says, tell me the suppliers who shipped late from Taiwan last week. And that is business language, right? It's I'm asking that question. There's no pseudocode in there. There's no technical explanation. It's just, tell me the suppliers who shipped late from Taiwan last week. And in the table below, it actually shows which tables those are in. Now, you and I all recognise this because we're on this webinar, because we know EBS and we're exploring what we can do with EBS. Over time, that might change. And actually, Select AI is not about EBS, it's for any data. So how does the technology know those answers? How does it know where to go and find it? And another way of looking at that, tell me in ordinary English about my suppliers. So in EBS, that is particular tables and columns that's in the database. Shipped late, that's like, okay, I need to take a date. What's the date? It will be the receipted date. We know that. So anything after that is what we're looking for. Location, okay, so where am I going to find the location tables? So the Select AI offering has to know enough about that database to understand where it's going to get that data from. When Oracle made this available at the end of 2024, it was done through a technical white paper. And on this screen, you can see I've got my Oracle support note from that technical paper that explains how to do it, what it is that you need to do. I'm using this diagram, which was from a presentation that they gave in London just before it was released, as opposed to the one that's in the white paper, simply because the one in the white paper is a bit blurry, so it didn't render very well on my slides. The only difference is that top right-hand box, it just says OCI services, because Oracle have now added different language models to their offering. But basically, this is exactly what's in that white paper. So what happens is Oracle have made an Apex page available to you as your user experience, as your front end. And what they've done in the background is they've taken your eBusiness suite and they've run the processes that you would run if you were installing ECC, the Enterprise Command Center. And that generates a number of objects that sit in an autonomous database. And what happens in this is that process happens, those objects are created and they're written back into your eBusiness Suite database. Not the autonomous, we're not creating those, they were done they were done in, that happens in the background, but it's writing back those objects into your eBusiness Suite database. And that is creating a new schema, which is going to be used for the AI. At the same time, the metadata, i.e. what are those objects doing, is sitting in a new 23 AI database, which could be one of the free versions that Oracle makes available for you. So we've run the ECC process, it generates these objects. We're not going to keep those objects, but we're going to write that information back into our eBusiness Suite as a new AI schema, and the metadata that's associated with that has gone into our 23 AI database. Then I go into that Apex front end that Oracle have provided in or embedded into my eBusiness Suite today, and I ask that natural language question. It goes off to that 23 AI database. It calls that service, the Select AI, it calls that and it generates the SQL that's needed. It's doing that against the metadata. At this stage, it's got no data at all, just the metadata. It brings that back to Apex, and then we run that SQL against the new schema in our eBusiness Suite database. Now, I apologize to all those really tech people in the audience. There's a lot more to it than that, but in general, that's what's going on. And really, what we're doing here is it's a bit like views, right? When I enter data into my eBusiness Suite, let's say I'm entering an invoice, I do that from one screen. But when it goes into the database, it goes into many, many different tables. That's what a relational database is all about. And those tables are connected by IDs. And that means that I only have to manage a supplier and the supplier locations once. And then when I'm entering it in for an individual invoice, I can query and get from a drop-down list that supplier, and all of the data about that supplier is held in a suppliers table. But when I come to report or to write another form, I need to know where all of those components are. So we create views, which is just another object in the database, which basically says, I need these columns from these tables. And then it makes it much easier then for the developer to go off and get that information. And I'm quite impressed that Drew isn't laughing at this point as to how bad my technical explanation actually was. But that's not what this is about. This isn't about how to run a database. It's about the AI that's being used. So that's how it works. And that's absolutely brilliant. I love it. I love the fact that they're using Apex here because many, many eBusiness Suite customers use Apex. And if nothing else, this new ability to embed the Apex directly into your eBusiness Suite, which is just a side effect of them putting AI in, is something worth exploring. So what did Oracle say that you had to consider when doing this? Well, basically it works for anyone who's on 12.2.7 or above. You will need to get this database that we talked about, and you will need access to OCI. The reason I talked about the fact that they'd added a new LLM is that actually Oracle are using the Meta Llama large language model for that. This is the one that worked best when they were doing their testing. What we found though was, well, I'll come back later to what our thoughts were on the actual process, but it worked fine, right? Now, back to my question. It's the EBS that I've built rather than the EBS that I've brought. This process, this technical white paper, is on the EBS that you bought. So like the Vision database, it does not include your customizations. It is not building your customizations in that AI schema. However, think about the process. It's based on ECC. And about a year ago, about 18 months ago, we did a webinar on how to extend your ECC to include your customizations. So it is possible, and we would be able to add your customizations into that AI schema, but I'm making the point that what Oracle has delivered does not include your customizations. Now, you don't need to do all of them. It would be a question of deciding which ones are important to you and which ones that you would want to add. But I just wanted to make that point quite clear. So we've done it. It wasn't that bad a job. And what's better than actually being able to see it? So now I'm going to pass it over to Drew, who's done all this work along with his colleagues, and he's going to show it to us. Thank you, Drew.
Thanks, Deborah. Okay, the application allows you to ask questions by domain. The domain lets us focus on a particular module's data. So for today, I'm going to demonstrate this on the accounts payable domain. And I want to see the total amount paid by each supplier. Now, what this is doing is this is going to return every supplier in the database and the total amount paid to them, as I haven't specified any date criteria. Now, as you can see, it's brought back two columns, the supplier name and a summation of all of the invoice for that supplier. And you can see it's brought back sort of 10 rows at a time so that it's sort of easily readable. But I'd like to know more about this supplier. So let's request something. Let's request the currency that's associated with each supplier. So using natural language, let's just say add currency. Now I've asked a very basic request here, and the AI is smart enough to work out the column required and return the appropriate data. So now we can see the currency that is associated with each supplier. Now this is showing me the total amount paid to each supplier and the currency, but let's start finding out more about specific invoices. So I've got a love for basketball, so I've decided to pick the National Basketball Association. So let's drill down into that. So let's ask it to show all the invoices for the National Basketball Association. I've now been shown these details, but most importantly, the invoice date, the invoice amount. Now, notice the low amounts there though. So let's ask another question. Let's ask for the top 10 highest values for this supplier. And we, again, natural language, display the invoice for the highest 10. The data is now showing as the highest 10. If you look at the payment, the invoice amount now, you can see they're an awful lot higher numbers. But this has made me think as well, why don't we find out the location of this? Now in e-business, it's the locations of the supplier is sort of known as supplier sites, but the person might not know that. So let's just say, where are the suppliers located? And as you can see, that we've not called out the supplier site, but it's worked out that it's the supplier site column. Now this again led me to think of, well, how many suppliers does this supplier have? So we can start a new conversation, because this previous conversation was focusing on invoice details, and now I'm going to ask all of the suppliers for the NBA. But notice I haven't used the word site, so I've used the word location. So again, it's smart enough to work out that it's the site, and we can see that there are 3 supplier sites for the NBA. And now if I click on the show sequel, we can see that this is the query that it's built. It's worked out that it's the supplier site code from the particular view, where the condition is National Basketball Association. But I want a bit more information. Let's go full natural language. I'm just going to say display more info. I've not asked anything specific, and it is now going to, it's went and fetched more columns from the appropriate data set, and it's now showing me supplier name, supplier type, operating unit, and currency. I have just asked it to display more info. Now, if we look at the sequel, you can actually see that it is the same query, but it's brought back more columns, all from just asking it to display more info. Now, another cool feature of the application is that you can see my current conversation, then the questions I've asked, so you can see the display more info there in the previous one, as well as the previous conversation we had around the invoices, with the ability to see the results from each prompt if you click on the show result. And that's it, a very powerful and advanced application that allows us to get information from the most basic questions.
Thank you, Drew. That was really, really useful. And now I want to go to the second part of this, was how does that compare to Fusion? So we were using one of those AI services that's available to in OCI, and Oracle have shown us how to put that into eBusiness Suite. If I go back to that AI stack, I already mentioned that Oracle have embedded it where it is in their modern applications. And so these are the more, like I said, the ChatGPT type of things that they've put into the applications. They talk about AI Assist. So that's a straightforward, oh, I want to look at some data and I want to summarize it, or I'd like to create a goal for someone. I'd like to do something like that. But they also talk about AI agents, which is where a series of AI runs throughout a whole process like recruitment or procurement and can help you at every stage. So this has been embedded. Oracle have done hundreds so far, but they're always doing more. And in fact, the biggest question from Oracle at the moment is, what do you, our customers, want us to add? So let's have a quick look at one of those. This is a video from Oracle.
This is a demo of embedded AI in Oracle HCM Cloud. It's from the perspective of a manager doing performance reviews. Let's jump into Jen Jacobs' review, since hers is almost finished. Rating Jen's communication skills. Her manager would normally have to read all the peer feedback, manually consolidate it, and then summarize it. Instead, they just give a rating and click AI Assist. AI analyzed all the participant feedback and generated a synopsis of Jen's communication skills. Moving on, we can finish Jen's review with the overall summary. The manager assigns a rating, adds some bullet points with specific heartfelt feedback, and then uses AI Assist again. Of course, the results generated by AI are just a starting point. Managers should make each review say exactly what they want. So there you have it. In about 1 minute, you can see how AI in Oracle HCM Cloud helps the manager do what would normally take an hour or more.
So That's great. It's just one example. There are many, many more. I've said that there's hundreds of them. And as I say, they've done these AI agents where they're linked together through a process. But the first question is, why aren't they doing that in eBusiness Suite? Well, the reason is that you need that modern technology. So Oracle themselves explained this really well. They said, what's the point of upgrading a horse and cart to a modern high-performing car if you're still going to be running it on a dirt track? And I thought that was quite a good analogy. The technology doesn't support it. Even in the work that they've done in eBusiness Suite, they're still having to have OCI and the most modern database in order to run that. It can't do it in eBusiness Suite itself. So it goes out, it does it, and it brings back the results, and then we run those results against the data. So it's not possible in that technology, but where it is possible, in Fusion, they are doing it. And in fact, even in Fusion, there had to be some upgrades. In order to embed that, you need to be in the Redwood screens in many cases. So, you know, whole other presentation about moving to Redwood. But part of the reason why for that is it's the technology that can support this AI. So where Oracle have embedded it in Fusion, they've put in guardrails, things to make it easier for you. They are controlling the things like the security. They're making sure that your data isn't leaking. It isn't going off to the large language model and being part of their ownership. It's making sure that you don't have hallucinations where you're asking questions that don't make sense and come up with the wrong answers. It's making sure that Oracle are running AI within any government rules so there are American and there are European rules about using AI in applications. So where Oracle are able to embed it, which is in their modern technology written applications, they have done so with guardrails, and it's really powerful. And as I said, there are hundreds of them. There's more being added every quarter. So again, remember, Fusion updates every quarter. You're getting more and more of these things. And whilst we've only spent a few minutes looking at Fusion, you can see that this is very, very different. So just to summarize what Oracle are doing, OCI allows you to build your own AI. That's the platform part of it. We haven't looked at that today. It allows you to use the ones that are provided for you in OCI. And we've looked at Select AI. We've looked at how Oracle are using Select AI in eBusiness Suite. You can embed your own or other people's in SAS. We haven't talked about that. What we did talk about was where Oracle have embedded in SAS, where they've built it, they're improving it, it's secured, it's supported by them. And best of all, it's free. If you are a SaaS customer of HCM, then all of the AI in HCM is available to you at no extra cost. So that's Oracle's strategy simplified, and we've looked at the embedded in Fusion, and we've looked at using OCI, where Oracle are using Select AI in eBusiness Suite. So if I go back to my road mapping, does this make it a tipping point? Does the promise of AI in SaaS, it's not just a promise, there's lots there already. We as an organization, we use Fusion. We are looking at it in goals at the moment. Right? It'd be lovely if we could say to someone like Drew, you need a goal to learn some more AI, and just put in those bullet points and it create a wonderful goal. You know, take us through to the next level, help us with training requirements, etc. So is that enough for you to say, does my system do what I need it to do today? Does that promise of AI in Fusion make you reconsider, is EBS what I need today? I don't know. I'm asking that question, and in my road mapping, that's another consideration that we will be looking at. So what do we think of this Select AI? What do we think of what's happened in eBusiness Suite? Well, putting it in was quite straightforward. Nod, Drew. It was quite straightforward. There were a
Boy,
couple of things.
always.
There was just a couple of things. It was very US centric. So the scripts assumed that you were in the Chicago data center. Well, we're not. We're in Europe. We're in the Frankfurt data center, but it was only a small edit. Drew showed you that there was a number of modules. They're not all there yet. Procurement isn't there. We've spoken to Nadia. We've given her our feedback on it. She'd hoped that it would be in the first release, but they had made a promise that this would be available by the end of 2024. So the next release of that white paper, I'm sure those others will happen. It's all about the use case, really. What are you going to do with it? It's great to show. It's a great demo. What are you going to use with it? What are you going to use it for? Personally, I think this is the best use case for AI in EBS. I think everyone has seen this cartoon or a version of it, but this is the business asks for something, the developer interprets that, they go back, it's not quite what the business user says, that's not what I asked for, that goes back a few times, and then the business user said, oh, I know that's what I asked for, but actually this is what I meant. And you have this iteration of discussions before you get what you want, right? This AI, I think, will speed this up. You can have a conversation between the developer and the business user, or just the business user and a conversation. He can have that conversation with his data, and then when he's happy, because he'll recognize the data, he's seeing his data, just like Drew had a series of questions, right? When the business are ready with those questions, they can say to the developer, this is the SQL that I want. Go away and do all the fancy things and put that in a report and give us what it is that we need. So I think the best use case in eBusiness Suite is that it will speed up any development that you need, rather than just be a tool that someone can show off and say, hey, I've got the answers. I think we have solved most of our problems in eBusiness Suite today. But does that mean that I don't think Select AI is a good tool? I think Select AI is brilliant. And actually, Drew has got another use case that he's going to show us, which I think is great. So many of our customers have moved from eBusiness Suite to SaaS. And then the question is, what do they do with that eBusiness Suite data? It's always in the business case, we are going to decommission our old system. But actually, that's quite hard. So we just leave eBusiness Suite read-only in the corner. And when the application is no longer supported, we just leave the database and we just SQL it. Well, that's great today. You've got lots of skills that understand that. But as time goes on, those skills will diminish. And when you need to get to that data, will you be able to get to that data? So we developed our archiving solution, which is a SaaS product. It's used by many customers now, which enables you to have that data stored in a way that you can easily get to it. And we make it available to them, and we allow them to generate ad hoc queries or new queries, because that's what happens. That's what it is by nature. It's all about ad hoc. I'm based in the UK. If I'm working with a public sector customer, they get parliamentary questions that need answering today. We have the Freedom of Information Act. That has to be answered very quickly. By its very nature, it's about ad hoc queries. What a great use of that Select AI. I didn't know I was going to be asked this question, so let's go and ask it. So, that's what Select AI is all about. The user is going to ask the question. The technology is going to go off and find the answer or the SQL that it thinks is needed, and then it's going to give us a response. So just like it was embedded, just like it's been embedded in EBS, we think that this is great for our archiving tool. We think the use case is even more prevalent, and Drew's going to show us that now.
Thanks, Deborah. On the screen, you can see the main features of the archiving solution. So we've got maintenance screens, we've got the AI option, report authoring that allows you to develop your own reports, and then finally the reports screen that we've went into. So the application has pre-built reports for numerous modules. On the screen, you can see we're in the procurement report library. When you go and we go back to the next page, you can see we also have access to our redaction functionality. But we're here to show you the latest release of our product, how it has been AI enabled using Oracle Select AI functionality. So if you click on the EBS AI Assist part, you're taken to a screen that is similar to the EBS application you were shown earlier and prompted to ask questions. So for this demo, we're going to request payables invoices for a supplier over a date period. So it's Stargate Limited, invoices over 2001. And you can see it's brought back invoice number, the date, and then the amount. Next, we're going to look for a specific invoice. So using natural language, we'll ask it to retrieve all the information on a specific invoice, providing further insights into the transactional data. So we're going to look for invoice 1104-102. Now, notice the use of the word all. So we're using that word because we want to get as much information as possible. And once the page loads, obviously demo taking its time, it has returned a large amount of data. So we can now see important information about that invoice. And you can also see that there are two lines on this invoice. So one of them is the item line and one of them is the tax line. So it's brought back an awful lot of information. And if you do know it, you can obviously ask for different columns, etc. But next, what I'm going to use for is look for is a specific supplier's address details for their Munich site. So again, note the use of all. Again, the reason I want to do this is I want to return all of the address columns. And when this loads, we'll see that only the first address line has been populated in the database. But we found that out, but we also now know the city and the zip code. So again, just using natural language, we've been able to interrogate data. We're able to find out key information that we've been looking for. So I would say that's it. So AI-enabled natural language querying of your archived business data without the need for a single line of code.
Thank you. So in this webcast, we've concentrated on the Select AI that Oracle have added to eBusiness Suite, and the Select AI that we've now enabled in our archiving tool. And that was looking at structured data. But let's talk a little bit more. We've got a little bit more time. Let's talk a little bit about other use cases, other ones of these offerings from OCI. And so whilst that was structured data, what about unstructured data? We looked at Stargate Limited in that demo that Drew just did. What if we were to put some documents into that database? What if we took their contract document, a PDF document, dropped it into that database, and then started to query that content? Now, in the demo that Drew just showed you on our archiving and on eBusiness Suite, Apex is used as the user interface for that natural language question, but it doesn't have to be Apex. In this example, Drew's going to show you using Teams.
Thanks, Deborah. So we're in Microsoft Teams here, chatting directly to the database. So let's ask the database to summarize a supplier's contract. So we'll use Stargate just to flow on from the previous demo. So the data we've requested is held in a file, which is embedded in the Oracle database. Now you'll notice Oracle's returned the details of the requested contract, showing us what it thinks is all the key terms of the contract, summarized quite well. Now let's drill down next into a specific contract clause, and let's look into the suppliers or Stargate Limited's payment terms. Once this loads, taking its time, Oracle is returning the details of the specific clause, but what it also does here, as you can find, is it finds another document with a similar supplier name, but with a different payment term. It is worked out, another document has got this, and it is giving us more information. Quite impressive. Next, let's drill down further and ask details for all of the penalty clauses for, again, the supplier, Stargate Limited. Eventually, when this loads, it's going to highlight all of the penalty clauses it's found within the document, and it will summarize each one. So you can see here, it's looked at the document, it's then found late payment, interest on late payment, termination for clause, and it does then talk more about different sections. So let's use natural language again and ask it to elaborate more on section 4, which is called out in there. So section 4 is the term and termination of Stargate. So Oracle doesn't let us down. It understands the request to elaborate, and it will provide even more detailed information on the specific clause eventually. as you can see. And it even takes it one step further. And if you look at the bottom there, it has actually found the term termination, and it's looked at other documents that we've got access to, employee documents, and it's tried to then explain there are other documents here. So very powerful, very impressive. This is documents held within a database. So this entire conversation is taking place in Microsoft Teams between the user and contract files held within the Oracle database.
Thank you, Drew. So we started here, we looked at AI in eBusiness Suite, we looked at how that had been done, we did a demo, we talked about how we thought that could be used, we compared it a little bit to Fusion. Is that a tipping point for you? We looked at some other use cases. We're not saying that there's no use case for Select AI, we think that absolutely is, but just explore AI a bit more. So have we got any questions? I think Janie's monitoring the questions for us.
Yes, we do have some questions. I will read them to you and you can let me know if you have time to answer them here. Does the Apex front end, where I assume you ask the text questions, require that the ECCs are configured, or does this function without ECCs being in place?
Right. So it has to run the process for generating enterprise command centers, but you aren't implementing it. Okay, so it runs the process in the background, but you do not have to do any of the final setup for ECC. It runs the processes, generates the objects, writes them back into eBusiness Suite. We are querying against that, right? So you do not end up with ECC implemented. You do not have to have ECC implemented in order to do this. It's just doing some of the implementation processing in the background once only to set this up. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. There's another question. The need for OCI to use AI in EBS. Is this a simple connection to use the private LLM? Somebody's concerned they are fully on-prem and they don't have buy-in from it.
Fine. So you do not have to have your EBS on OCI in order to use this. You are just using, so OCI is a pay-as-you-go service. So if you were to put your eBusiness Suite on OCI, you would be paying for that platform that you're running it on. If you only want to use these OCI AI services, then you're only using that and you're only paying for that. You do not, which I think is where the question is coming from, need to be an eBusiness Suite customer on OCI in order to set this up and use it.
And another question, can we implement this solution for on-prem EBS using an SLM model on-prem due to security considerations?
I'm not sure what's meant by SLM. Do you, Drew?
Oh, sorry, in what solution? Did they mean the first Ask eBusiness, or did they mean the archiving solution?
Maybe we can just take that one offline.
Yeah, but the answer is if you are on-premise EBS, you can still implement the AI in EBS. But
they've confirmed they're talking about small language model.
No, this is using, so the Select AI that Oracle have provided is using the large language model that they use for Select AI, and in this case they're using Meta Llama.
Thank you.
Okay.
How deep can the AI select go? For example, I want to get how a transaction event gets accounted or accounting rules behind an event. Go as deep as you want it to.
Yes. Well, the answer is yes, it can. You can ask the question, you can ask whatever question you like, and it will attempt to interpret that for you. Is there going to be a situation where it doesn't? I'm sure there is. And if you want to implement AI just to ask questions till you find the one it can't answer, then that's absolutely fine. But accounting rules, if you think about those Oracle modules, right? The Oracle modules that they had around payments, you can ask the question about an invoice, and you could say, what accounting rules have been applied against this? I don't know what the answer would be, but if the data is stored there, then it should have a good chance of getting to it.
There's a question about our archiving solution here. As you mentioned, most EBS customer value what they built versus what they bought. How does InnoApp's archiving solution accommodate EBS customers' extended and custom data models?
I can answer that one. So we can obviously talk more about the archiving tool to that customer, but we migrate over the entire e-business database, and all your customizations held within the database would then come over with it. And the report authoring section, which lets you write SQL queries, allows you to then interrogate that customized data. If you've got the skill set that you can do it yourself, we can have access to the database to then do it for you if need be. So it can deal with customizations very easily.
Thank you. We do have a few more questions, but I think we're at time here, so we'll maybe take them offline.
Okay, so just to wrap up then, read the blogs. So this quick 45 minutes was based on a series of blogs. In our follow-up email, we will send the link to the blogs. Do a proof of concept. Either contact us and we'll do it for you, or do it yourself. It is very straightforward. We'll put that Oracle technical paper link in there as well. Or come and talk to us and we can do it with you. You can try it out with us on the phone using our Vision database, and then determine what you want to do next. If you're interested in that road mapping, what are the things that you should be considering? We offer that as a free service. If the relevant stakeholders in your organization want, we can have an hour or two conversation about the things that you should be looking at, places to go next, things to look at. If you think this might be your tipping point to Fusion, then have a call with us and understand a bit more, and we can work with you and your account managers for a demo on Fusion. If you're interested in the archiving tool, then obviously come back to us. We'd love to show you that. We'd love to talk to you about some of our customers and how they're using it. And if you're interested in those AI services for other data in your organization, like Drew's example there on the unstructured data on those documents, come and talk to us about that. In fact, if you've got any AI questions, come and talk to us. We're here and we're happy to help, and we love exploring new things. The questions we don't know the answers to are the ones that we love the most, because then we'll learn and we can explore a bit further. So I hope that you found this useful. I hope that it's got you thinking, and please come back to us with any more questions. Thank you.